so today we're going to be making a no egg chocolate chip cookie. I have 4 audiences right here. So the first thing we're going to do is preheat the oven to 375. Alright, so we're going to add all of our liquid ingredients. So we're going to have softened butter. It is exactly a cup. We're going to put that right in the mixing bowl. And now we're going to add 2/3 of a cup of shortening. So you can just add enough. Make sure you flatten it out so it's even, because then they'll get really runny. So that is about 2/3 of a cup of shortening. So we're just going to add that in the bowl. All right, next we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. Okay. Now we're going to beat the butter, shortening, and vanilla until it is soft in a runny consistency, since the butter and the shortening are already softened. So now that we have the butter, shortening, and vanilla, we're going to add the salt now so it doesn't get too salty later on. This is a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. It's just the regular iodized salt. What really makes these cookies good is adding brown sugar. So we're going to add a 1/2 cup of brown sugar and a full cup of white sugar. So we're going to add a 1/2 cup. And make sure to pack it down so you get all of that brown sugar. It kind of makes up for the molasses in the cookies. So this is a 1/2 cup of brown sugar. Okay, so we have a 1/2 cup of brown sugar. Now we're going to add a full cup of white sugar. Okay, so that adds out to about a full cup of white sugar. Okay, now we're gonna beat the butter, shortening, sugar, and brown sugar until it gets crumbly but a little smooth. So once it gets into that even consistency, then we know we're done with the beating. I'm gonna put it up to 6 on the mixer. All right, so we know that is a great consistency. Now we're going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. So make sure you don't get too much, otherwise the cookies will taste very salty and they'll be very chewy and not very great. Now we're going to add a 1/2 cup of chocolate chips. I like to add the chocolate chips and the nuts to it before it gets really solid, because after you do that, then the chocolate chips do not mix well into the dough itself. And we are going to add about a cup of walnuts. I personally do not like to crush the walnuts because they will get crushed while they're beating. And we're gonna mix that all together in our mixer. Now our last key ingredient to add is flour. We're gonna add 2 cups even of flour. A good trick is if you're taking flour right out of the bag, just press down on the bag itself and you have a fully packed even cup of sugar, flour. Right. So we're gonna mix this all together with locking our head down, and we're gonna do it at a medium speed. Gonna push all those ingredients on the side down a little bit so everything gets mixed well. Now that there is no excess flour on the sides, we can bring it up to a high speed of mixing. And we're still gonna beat that excess dough down so everything gets mixed up really well. Now while the mixture is setting up, we're gonna add a little bit of salt. It's gonna be 1/2 of a teaspoon. And we're still gonna beat down all of that excess dough. Okay. Now that the dough looks like it is a good consistency, we're gonna bring it all off of the mixer. We're gonna just mix this up a little bit by a spoon. Okay. What I like to do is I like to put shortening on my fingers and rub them together so that the dough does not get caught. And we're gonna take about 1/2 to 1/4 inch of dimension of a ball. We're gonna plop it right down and they're gonna be about 1 inch apart. We can probably fit about 9 cookie doughs onto this sheet. I'm gonna place them out so they don't run into each other and get really sticky. now that we have about 18 doughs of cookie, we are gonna plop them into the oven, which is preheated until 375 degrees. All right, and now we are gonna set the timer to 8 to 10 minutes. I personally like hard cookies, so I put them in at 10 minutes while I check on them about every 5 minutes. And that is your recipe to how to make really great baked eggless chocolate chip cookies.